Hello and welcome to the morning news. My name is Dino. And here is the story. 16-year-old dead, another injured after Westmoreland motorcycle accident. Westmoreland, Jamaica, a 16-year-old boy is dead and another is nursing injuries following a motorcycle accident in Belmont, Westmoreland, on Sunday afternoon. The deceased has been identified as Carlos Getters of Roe Town, White House in the parish. It is reported that Getters, along with the pillion, were heading in the direction of Savannah La Mar, when upon reaching a section of the roadway Getters lost control of the motorcycle, veered right, and collided with a Mitsubishi Prado that was heading in the direction of White House. Both Getters and the pillion fell from the motorcycle. Getters died on the spot while the pillion was rushed to the Savannah La Mar Public General Hospital. July 24 coming as his birthday, he turned 17, a distressed Sylvia said. Me have him from him a baby, him new really give me any trouble. Me hear say a river dem did a go, when the accident happened, the distraught grandmother added. Sylvia told Observer Online that her daughter recently told her to book a ticket for him to spend holidays in the United States. Yes, me did a guy book him a ticket, him. Mother call me and tell me to book a ticket for him to go to America with his auntie, his grandmother recalled. Issa defends rights to privacy. Amoy Leon Issa, the mother of 9-year-old Gabriel King who was viciously murdered last January, wants the Supreme Court to find that the state breached her rights to privacy when the parish court judge granted permission to the police to search her cellular phone. The claimant also wants the High Court to determine whether the production order granted by the judge was necessary and demonstrably justified. Issa, who is suing the state for continued violation of her privacy rights as well as her right to informational privacy, is also seeking to have the judge orders quashed and several declarations deeming different aspects of the judge's order unconstitutional. She also wants vindicatory damages. The claimant filed the lawsuit after St. James Parish Court Judge Sasha Ashley granted a production order to Constable Julian Fraser last September for Issa to provide the phone's passcode to facilitate access to data as part of the police investigation into her son's murder. Fraser is named in the claim as the first defendant. The police commissioner is the second while the judge is listed as third and the attorney general is fourth. Abducted, throat slashed. The child, who was developmentally challenged, was reportedly abducted from his mother's car along the Tucker Main Road in St. James, on January 13, after assailants reportedly dragged her from her motor car and took the vehicle with the child still in the back seat. King's body was subsequently found on the back seat of the vehicle in Fairfield, St. James, with his throat slashed. Issa's phone, which she had given to her son to use before the incident, was also found beside the boy's body and was seized. The production order was thereafter granted by the parish judge after an ex parte application, which is an application heard in the absence of one of the parties. The order was for Issa to produce the passcode to the phone and in intelligible form any communication data, cell sites data, and other data contained on the phone for the purpose of the criminal investigation. Yesterday during the hearing in the full court before Justices Lorna Shelley Williams, Simone Wolfe-Rees, and Andrea Pettigrew Collins, attorney Chukwuemeka Cameron argued that the production order restricted his client's right to privacy and right to information privacy as it granted the police permission to access her personal information. It's the claimant's case that in applying for a production order and in granting a production order in circumstances wherein complying with the order would give an untold number of persons, for an indefinite period of time, access to all the personal data and information contained on the mobile phone of the claimant is, without doubt, a restriction of her right to privacy, he added. Pointing to Section 21 of the Cybercrimes Act, which sanctions the production order, Cameron argued that under the law, the data which is requested must be specified as well as a time period. Cameron also argued that the state could have pursued a less restrictive measure to access the data which is being sought. Instead of using the Cybercrimes Act, Cameron said the police could have used the Interception of Communications Act to compel the relevant telecommunications company to produce the data that they are seeking. Order impossible to fulfill. He also advanced that the judge's order for the production of cell site data which the police later conceded evidenced the breach, as the judge had made an order which was impossible for his client to fulfill. Cameron, while underscoring that every citizen has a right to privacy, indicated at the same time, we must also accept that no state organ can restrict that right unless it is demonstrably justified. In this regard, he averred that the court now needs to determine whether it was necessary and demonstrably justified for the parish judge to have restricted his client's right to privacy. It is not sufficient for the judge to say she satisfies herself, he added. According to him, he was not made aware of the application that was presented to the judge and on what basis she had granted the order, and his request for the supporting documents for the application was denied. Cameron also submitted that the absence of the ex parte application was fatal to the defendant's position. In the meantime, Cameron said her client was always concerned about her privacy and through her former lawyer had written a letter to the police last September expressing her concerns while indicating that she was prepared to give the police access provided that her privacy rights were not breached. Without question, in today's age, there are few things that could be considered more private than one's cell's phone. Mrs. Issa is guaranteed the right to keep her personal life private, especially when it comes to her personal phone. For a member of the public like the claimant, who is not involved in any criminal activity, it is reasonable to believe that their phone, which contains such intimate details of their life, would be safe from arbitrary search, Cameron submitted. Cameron will complete his submission when the matter resumes next Friday. Both parties in the meantime were ordered by the judges to make submissions on public interest immunity. Meanwhile, as it relates to the production order, Issa has been ordered by the court to comply with the order by month's end, after the Supreme Court ruled against her in a judicial review that was sought for the order, which was varied to provide certain safeguards and protects information concerning third parties not associated with the investigations. Public passenger transport operators form a steering committee. A steering committee has been established by public passenger transport operators to represent the operators' interests and aid in tackling issues affecting the sector. The committee includes Minister of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport, Daryl Vaz. The membership will also include other representatives from the ministry, as well as the Transport Authority and Island Traffic Authority. Opposition spokesman on transportation, Mikael Phillips, is also expected to be invited to be a part of the group. Vaz indicated that the committee's establishment will facilitate transport operators' inclusion in discussions pertaining to the sector. The bottom line is that all of the issues, some of them long-standing, some of them very contentious, must be addressed, and the only way to do that is obviously with collaboration and consensus. We may not agree on everything, but giving them an opportunity to be a part of it is very important, and that includes fare increases, Vaz pointed out. He was speaking with JIS News following a retreat hosted by the TA for transport operators at the Moon Palace Hotel in Ocho Rios, St. Anne, on Thursday. Vaz said the retreat facilitated an interaction between myself and my new transport family, and to put some order in relation to how we communicate. During the meeting, Vaz, who was recently assigned the transport portfolio, said the ministry will be collaborating heavily with operators to ensure that there is complete transparency. This minister and this ministry are not going to hand down dictates to you. The ministry is not going to make policy and hand it down to you. It is not going to decide on bus fares in the ministry and in the Transport Authority and announce it and tell you, he assured. Vaz maintained that you are going to be part of all that happens because, without your buy-in, we are not going to get the results. You are the stakeholders, you are the investors, you are the ones that employ the drivers. I can't tell the driver what to do, you employ him, and you pay him, so only you can instruct him and get the results, the minister emphasized. Several transport operators and other stakeholders from across the island attended the retreat to meet with the minister and management of the Transport Authority. As part of the day's activities, Vaz also visited the Ocho Rios Transportation Center where he spoke with vendors, taxi operators, and other stakeholders. Breaking news: residents protest police killing of 2 men in Spanish Town, call for Indicom probe. Residents of Gordon's Pen in Spanish Town, St. Catherine took to the streets Sunday to protest the killing of 2 men in their community by the police. The 2 men were reportedly shot and killed while at their home on Kennedy Lane around 8:30 a.m. Sunday. It is understood that the police were said to be conducting a special operation in the community at the time of the incident. Approximately 30 residents could be heard wailing and yelling outside of the residence shortly after the incident, as they accused the police of murder. According to the residents who identified the deceased only by their street names Color and Theo, The men were in their beds sleeping when they were fatally shot. They were not outside. The men were inside asleep. A through the window, them shoot them. Mercy. Mercy, cried a community resident. Gunmen don't sleep till sun hot, Father got away ya day, added another. The residents called for the intervention of the Independent Commission of Investigations, Indicom, into the matter as they swarmed the cops, chanting and wailing for justice. Indicom recently reported a significant decrease in the number of people killed in confrontations with members of the security forces over the last decade.
Jesus, Father God have mercy! Mercy, Father God! Mercy! Father God, mercy! Mercy! Mercy, Father God, mercy! Mercy! Mercy, Father God! Father God, mercy! Mercy, Father God! Father God, mercy! Mercy, Father God, have mercy! Have mercy, Jesus! Have mercy! Mercy, Jesus, mercy! Mercy! Mercy, Jesus, mercy! Mercy, Jesus! Mercy, have mercy, Jesus! Have mercy! Mercy! Officer, have mercy! 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 Mercy, Jesus! Mercy! 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 Mercy, Jesus! Mercy! 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 Father God, I want you to Jesus. Mankind, I want like Jesus. I want you to Father God. Father God, you make way. Father God, I want you there. Innocent people, gunman not sleep till now. Gunman not sleep till sunlight. Gunman don't sleep till sunlight.
AI scam calls imitating familiar voices are a growing problem. Here's how they work. Scam calls using AI to mimic the voices of people you might know are being used to exploit unsuspecting members of the public. These calls use what's known as generative AI, which refers to systems capable of creating text, images or any other media such as video, based on prompts from a user. Deepfakes have gained notoriety over the last few years with a number of high-profile incidents, such as actress Emma Watson's likeness being used in a series of suggestive adverts that appeared on Facebook and Instagram. There was also the widely shared, and debunked, video from 2022 in which Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky appeared to tell Ukrainians to lay down arms. Now, the technology to create an audio deepfake, a realistic copy of a person's voice, is becoming increasingly common. To create a realistic copy of someone's voice you need data to train the algorithm. This means having lots of audio recordings of your intended target's voice. The more examples of the person's voice that you can feed into the algorithms, the better and more convincing the eventual copy will be. Our mission is to share knowledge and inform decisions. Many of us already share details of our daily lives on the internet. This means the audio data required to create a realistic copy of a voice could be readily available on social media. But what happens once a copy is out there? What is the worst that can happen? A deepfake algorithm could enable anyone in possession of the data to make you say whatever they want. In practice, this can be as simple as writing out some text and getting the computer to say it out loud in what sounds like your voice. Major challenges. This capability risks increasing the prevalence of audio misinformation and disinformation. It can be used to try to influence international or national public opinion, as seen with the videos of Zelensky. But the ubiquity and availability of these technologies pose significant challenges at a local level too, particularly in the growing trend of AI scam calls. Many people will have received a scam or phishing call that tells us, for example, that our computer has been compromised and we must immediately log in, potentially giving the caller access to our data. Audio spectrogram. Real versus deepfake voices can be distinguished from their spectrogram or voice print. Bradstock/Shutterstock. It is often very easy to spot that this is a hoax, especially when the caller is making requests that someone from a legitimate and would not. However, now imagine that the voice on the other end of the phone is not just a stranger, but sounds exactly like a friend or loved one. This injects a whole new level of complexity and panic for the unlucky recipient. A recent story reported by CNN highlights an incident where a mother received a call from an unknown number. When she answered the phone, it was her daughter. The daughter had allegedly been kidnapped and was phoning her mother to pass on a ransom demand. In fact, the girl was safe and sound. The scammers had made a deepfake of her voice. This is not an isolated incident, with variations of the scam including a supposed car accident, where the victim calls their family for money to help them out after a crash. Old trick using new tech. This is not a new scam in itself. The term virtual kidnapping scam has been around for several years. It can take many forms, but a common approach is to trick victims into paying a ransom to free a loved one they believe is being threatened. The scammer tries to establish unquestioning compliance, in order to get the victim to pay a quick ransom before the deception is discovered. However, the dawn of powerful and available AI technologies has upped the ante significantly, and made things more personal. It is one thing to hang up on an anonymous caller, but it takes real confidence in your judgment to hang up on a call from someone sounding just like your child or partner. There is software that can be used to identify deepfakes and will create a visual representation of the audio called a spectrogram. When you are listening to the call, it might seem impossible to tell it apart from the real person, but voices can be distinguished when spectrograms are analyzed side by side. At least one group has offered detection software for download, though such solutions may still require some technical knowledge to use. Most people will not be able to generate spectrograms, so what can you do when you are not certain what you are hearing is the real thing? As with any other form of media you might come across, be skeptical. If you receive a call from a loved one out of the blue and they ask you for money or make requests that seem out of character, call them back or send them a text to confirm you really are talking to them. As the capabilities of AI expand, the lines between reality and fiction will increasingly blur. And it is not likely that we will be able to put the technology back in the box. This means that people will need to become more cautious.